When you think of beauty, you probably picture models, Instagram influencers, or magazine covers. But did you know that thousands of years ago, beauty meant something very different? In ancient Greece, it wasn't about makeup or trends. It was about proportion, symmetry, and a divine balance of body, mind, and spirit. Greek beauty celebrated strength, health, and intelligence, reflecting virtues and status as much as appearance. These ideals shaped art, fashion, philosophy, and politics, and their influence still echoes in how we perceive beauty today. In this video, we'll explore how ancient Greek standards went beyond looks to define virtue and perfection, and how they continue to impact our world. Ready to see how beauty was truly defined? Let's dive in. Ancient Greece was one of the most influential civilizations in the history of the Western world, spanning from roughly the 8th century BC to the 6th century AD. The Greek world was made up of city-states, each with its own unique culture, but they shared a common language, mythology, and reverence for intellectual pursuits. From the great philosophers like Plato and Aristotle to legendary warriors like Alexander the Great, ancient Greece was a center for thought, politics, and culture. The Greeks were pioneers in exploring ideas about beauty, art, and human nature. Unlike many ancient cultures that might have viewed beauty purely as a form of aesthetic enjoyment or a divine gift, the Greeks saw beauty as something far more profound, something tied directly to the human soul, moral character, and even society's well-being. In this society, beauty wasn't just about what was visible to the eye. It was deeply connected to the values of the Greeks, the idea that the perfect harmony of mind, body, and spirit was the ultimate achievement. This belief shaped how the Greeks viewed human potential, health, and even politics. In ancient Greece, appearance was never trivial. It reflected character, morality, and societal contribution. The Greeks believed the body and mind were connected. Symmetry, health, and posture mirrored inner virtues like strength, wisdom, and balance. This ideal of beauty extended to art and mythology, with gods like Aphrodite embodying both physical perfection and moral excellence. In ancient Greece, beauty was more than appearance. It reflected virtue, health, and intellect. Physical fitness, strength, and balance were admired in athletes and warriors, while intellectual sharpness and moral character were equally valued. Greek art and philosophy portrayed beauty as a holistic ideal, where the body, mind, and spirit were harmoniously aligned, exemplified in perfectly proportioned statues and the concept of kalos kai agathos, beautiful and good. One of the defining features of ancient Greek beauty standards was their obsession with symmetry and proportion. The Greeks believed that beauty was not only an external, superficial trait, but was also deeply connected to the concept of harmony. They understood that the human form, as well as other aspects of life, could be broken down into mathematical principles of balance and symmetry. The concept of proportion was so vital to Greek culture that it was directly linked to their understanding of beauty, morality, and even the divine. The idea of proportion was not just an aesthetic preference, it was a universal principle that governed the entire Greek worldview. Symmetry, in particular, was considered a sign of perfection and divine order. The Greeks believed that when the human body, buildings, or even objects followed certain proportions, they aligned with the natural laws of the universe, creating a sense of order and beauty. The most famous example of this is the golden ratio, a mathematical formula that the Greeks used to design and create aesthetically pleasing shapes and structures. The golden ratio, approximately 1 minute and 1.618 seconds, is a mathematical relationship between two numbers that has been widely observed in nature, art, and architecture. This ratio is often considered the perfect balance of proportions, resulting in shapes and forms that feel naturally harmonious and pleasing to the eye. The Greeks, recognizing this inherent beauty in nature, applied the golden ratio to everything they created, from sculptures to buildings, to the proportions of the human body. In the realm of sculpture, the golden ratio was especially important. Sculptors like Polykleitos created works based on strict mathematical principles of proportion, particularly through his famous statue, Dorophorus, the spear-bearer. The statue was a physical embodiment of the perfect human form, where each part of the body was proportioned according to the golden ratio. Polykleito's Canon, a treatise on proportions, outlined the ideal measurements for the human body. In this work, the Greeks emphasized that the human body could be divided into parts that had specific relationships to one another. For example, the height of the head should be 1/8 of the body's total height, while the distance between the shoulders and hips should form a balanced, symmetrical ratio. The Greeks were not just interested in beauty for beauty's sake. They believed that a well-proportioned human body symbolized an equally well-proportioned soul. They felt that when someone's external appearance conformed to these ideal proportions, it was a reflection of their inner harmony and moral goodness. In architecture, the Parthenon in Athens stands as a prime example of the Greeks' obsession with symmetry and proportion. Built between 447 and 438 BCE, the Parthenon is considered the pinnacle of Greek architectural achievement, and its design adheres to the golden ratio. From the layout of the columns to the relationship between the building's various parts, every element was meticulously planned to create a sense of perfect harmony. The Greek belief was that the beauty of these structures, built with mathematical precision, reflected the divine order of the cosmos. In ancient Greek society, the gods and goddesses were not just objects of worship. They were also representations of the ideal human form and a direct embodiment of Greek beauty standards. These divine figures served as the ultimate models for human beauty, with their physical attributes often reflecting virtues like harmony, strength, and perfection. The gods represented an ideal that transcended mere mortal appearance, elevating the Greeks' concept of beauty into something sacred and divine. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, is perhaps the most prominent example of Greek beauty. Aphrodite was not only the goddess of love but also of desire and fertility, making her an integral figure in the Greek pantheon. She was often depicted as the epitome of female beauty, with soft, flowing hair, a perfectly proportioned body, and an expression of serene confidence. The most famous statue of her, created by the sculptor Praxiteles, called the Aphrodite of Knidos, is one of the first fully nude depictions of a goddess in Greek art. The statue portrays Aphrodite in an alluring, yet naturalistic pose, showcasing the Greeks' ideal of beauty as both powerful and graceful. However, beauty in Greek mythology was not confined to women. Apollo, the god of the sun, music, and prophecy, was the archetype of male beauty in Greek culture. Often depicted with a youthful, athletic body, Apollo embodied the Greek ideal of physical harmony and intellectual prowess. He was depicted as the perfect male figure, muscular yet graceful, further emphasizing the Greek belief that beauty was not just an aesthetic ideal, but a sign of virtue and wisdom. The gods' beauty was not just superficial. They were symbols of moral goodness and balance. For example, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, embodied beauty not just through her physical form but through her wisdom and justice. Her beauty was associated with intellect, and she was often portrayed with a serene, composed expression, another reminder that Greek beauty was linked to inner harmony, intellect, and virtue. In many ways, the gods and goddesses acted as benchmarks for the Greeks to measure beauty in humans. The ideal human form was seen as a reflection of divine perfection, and achieving that ideal was a way to align oneself with the gods' virtues. A beautiful human was seen not only as physically pleasing but as possessing the same virtues that made the gods themselves so admired and revered. The Greek philosophers, particularly Plato and Aristotle, had a profound influence on how beauty was understood in Greek society. Their views connected beauty to the higher ideals of morality, intellect, and harmony, rather than seeing it as merely a superficial characteristic. For Plato, beauty was an ideal form, a perfect, eternal essence that existed outside of the material world. In his work, The Symposium, he argues that beauty is not just about physical attraction but is tied to a deeper, spiritual longing for the good and the truth. For Plato, physical beauty was merely a reflection of a higher, more profound beauty that could be discovered through intellectual and philosophical pursuits. He believed that by contemplating beauty, one could gain insight into the nature of the universe and the divine. The body, for Plato, was simply a vessel through which the soul could experience beauty and come closer to truth. In contrast, Aristotle, Plato's student, viewed beauty through a more practical lens. While he still believed that beauty had a deeper connection to virtue and harmony, he focused on how beauty could be understood through observation and reason. In his work, Poetics, Aristotle connected beauty to the idea of order, asserting that beauty arises from the proper arrangement and proportion of elements. Aristotle argued that the beauty of a person, an object, or a work of art was inextricably linked to how well its parts work together to create a harmonious whole. For both philosophers, beauty was not just about what was visible, it was about an ideal form that reflected moral goodness and harmony. Beauty, in their view, was a philosophical concept that connected the physical world to the divine, the eternal, and the intellectual. Their views solidified the Greek understanding that beauty was not a shallow attribute, but a reflection of one's inner character and the natural order of the world. In ancient Greece, the ideal physical appearance for women was rooted in concepts of youth, grace, and delicacy. The Greek vision of feminine beauty was based on certain physical traits that were seen as reflective of purity, vitality, and fertility, qualities that were highly valued in Greek society. These traits, while often idealized, were also culturally ingrained as representations of the ideal woman. One of the most sought-after traits for women in ancient Greece was fair skin, often seen as a symbol of wealth, luxury, and status. Fair skin was associated with being able to stay indoors and avoid the sun's harsh rays, implying that a woman came from a privileged background, where leisure and indoor life were accessible. In contrast, a tan was generally associated with the working class, particularly farmers and laborers who spent most of their time outdoors. Therefore, women with fair, smooth skin were seen as elegant and elevated, marking their place in society's upper echelons. The ideal Greek woman was typically depicted with a slender, graceful physique. Muscularity and broad shoulders, which were considered masculine features, were not part of the female beauty ideal. Instead, a woman's body was expected to be light, curvaceous, and delicate, emphasizing the natural flow of the body's lines and shapes. Athleticism, however, was also highly regarded, but it was expected to be subtly expressed. Women who were athletic had to maintain a balance, showcasing strength without sacrificing the grace of their femininity. This balance between strength and delicacy was idealized in art, where the female form was celebrated for its smoothness, fluidity, and proportionality. Long, flowing hair was considered a major marker of beauty for Greek women. Hair was a symbol of fertility and femininity. Many depictions of Greek women in art show them with long, dark, and thick hair, often arranged in intricate styles that displayed their beauty and status. Hair was often braided or curled in elaborate styles, with some women adorning their locks with jewelry, ribbons, or fragrant oils. Long hair wasn't just about aesthetics, it had a deeper cultural meaning, linking women to their roles in family and society, as well as to the divine and natural world. The concept of youth was central to the ideal of female beauty in ancient Greece. The Greeks believed that youthfulness was synonymous with vitality and fertility, two highly valued attributes in women. A youthful face, characterized by a smooth complexion, full cheeks, and soft features, symbolized a woman's potential for motherhood and her vitality in society. Wrinkles and aging were associated with a decline in beauty, as they signified a loss of the vitality and purity that was so revered in the female form. The youthful beauty ideal was evident in Greek art, which often depicted women with idealized youthful faces, free of harsh lines and imperfections. These physical traits of fairness, slenderness, long hair, and youthfulness were embodied in the gods and goddesses of Greek mythology. For example, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, was frequently depicted with long, flowing hair, a flawless complexion, and a body that exemplified delicate yet powerful femininity. Her physical attributes became the model for the ideal Greek woman, guiding both artists and citizens in their understanding of beauty. Greek women, particularly those in higher social classes, were expected to dress modestly but with a refined elegance that reflected their status and beauty. The style of clothing and use of cosmetics, while understated, were significant aspects of a woman's appearance and were important in signaling her social standing. The most common garment worn by Greek women was the chiton. This was a simple yet elegant tunic made from linen or wool. It was typically knee-length or longer and draped loosely over the body, allowing for fluid movement. The chiton was often secured at the shoulders with clasps and belted at the waist to emphasize the form of the body. The ideal chiton was made from lightweight fabrics, allowing it to flow naturally, which added an element of grace to a woman's movement. In certain situations, women also wore a peplos, a more elaborate garment that consisted of a large piece of cloth folded and fastened at the shoulders, creating a more structured and formal appearance. The color and quality of a woman's chiton were often indicative of her social class. Wealthier women could afford more luxurious fabrics and vibrant colors, which were more expensive and harder to produce. While poorer women wore simpler, undyed garments, the elite could afford rich, brightly dyed materials like purple, a color associated with nobility and royalty. The use of dyes from plants and shells, especially in garments, was a mark of affluence. The quality of the fabric and the way it was draped on the body became an expression of social standing, emphasizing that beauty was not only about personal features but also about status. In ancient Greece, cosmetics were used but were relatively simple compared to modern standards. Women relied on natural products to maintain their beauty, using things like olive oil, honey, herbs, and mineral-based pigments. Olive oil was a key ingredient in many beauty routines. It was used for skin care, moisturizing, and keeping the skin smooth and youthful. The oil also served as a cleanser for the face, providing a natural glow to the skin. In addition to olive oil, honey was often used as a natural exfoliant, and women used herbal infusions to enhance their hair, skin, and overall appearance. Greek women also used cosmetic powders made from chalk, white lead, and other natural minerals to lighten their skin, aiming to achieve the fair complexion that was considered ideal. They would apply these powders to their faces to reduce the appearance of blemishes and even out their skin tone. While these substances could be harmful, the desire to achieve the ideal skin tone and aesthetic perfection outweighed any potential risks. Some women also used kohl, a natural eyeliner made from antimony or lead, to accentuate their eyes, providing a striking contrast against their pale skin. Despite the use of these products, Greek cosmetics remained relatively minimalist in comparison to modern-day beauty standards. The goal wasn't to mask or change the natural features, but to enhance and refine them. This minimalist approach reflected the Greek belief that true beauty came from within, and external adornment was simply an enhancement of the virtues that already existed. Beauty in ancient Greece was deeply intertwined with social class and wealth. While all women were expected to maintain a certain standard of beauty, the ability to do so was largely dependent on one's social and economic status. Wealthy women, particularly those in the upper classes, had the time, resources, and leisure to invest in their appearance, while poorer women had to rely on simpler methods to enhance their beauty. For wealthier women, beauty was a full-time pursuit. These women often had access to a variety of cosmetics, luxurious clothing, and time for personal grooming. Since they didn't have to work in the fields or participate in physically demanding labor, they could focus on cultivating a beauty that was reflective of their high social standing. Access to luxurious fabrics, elaborate jewelry, and exquisite cosmetics was a direct reflection of their wealth. Only wealthy women could afford to employ a wide range of beauty practices, such as visiting salons for hairstyling or having attendants to assist in their bathing rituals. In contrast, poorer women, especially those of lower social ranks, were often excluded from the luxury of cosmetics and elaborate beauty routines. For these women, beauty had to be achieved with more modest means. While they still adhered to the general beauty standards of slenderness, youthfulness, and grace, they couldn't afford the same level of upkeep as their wealthier counterparts. Their appearance might be more closely tied to their role in society, whether as workers, wives, or mothers. As such, their beauty was often marked by practicality and simplicity, with fewer opportunities for adornment and beautification. In ancient Greece, the ideal male body combined muscularity and slenderness, emphasizing both strength and grace. Unlike modern standards favoring bulk, Greek ideals valued proportionality and harmony, as seen in athletic, elegant sculptures. Men were expected to be fit, agile, and coordinated, with success in athletic competitions like the Olympic Games reflecting beauty, virtue, and civic excellence. Male beauty celebrated strength and endurance, often depicted in dynamic poses, showcasing a balance of physical prowess, discipline, and moral character. The Greek concept of kalos, beautiful, was central to their understanding of male beauty. The term kalos didn't just refer to physical attractiveness, it was also deeply linked to virtue and moral character. In Greek society, a man who was considered beautiful was not only admired for his physical traits but was also expected to embody the values of the society, such as courage, wisdom, and justice. A beautiful man, in the Greek sense, was someone who could uphold the ideals of Greek civilization. The concept of kalos was often paired with agathos, good, meaning a man who was both beautiful and virtuous. The Greeks believed that beauty was a sign of inner goodness. In fact, beauty was often seen as a manifestation of moral excellence. A man who possessed physical beauty was assumed to also have the qualities that made him a noble citizen: intelligence, bravery, and a commitment to civic duty. The idea of kalos kai agathos, beautiful and good, was not merely about external appearance but reflected a deeper belief in the connection between the physical body and the soul. A beautiful man was expected to be a warrior, a politician, or a philosopher, someone who could contribute to society through both action and intellect. The ideal man was not simply a figure of physical attraction. He was a well-rounded individual, respected for his moral character, his ability to lead, and his skill in the arts of war, politics, or philosophy. Greek mythology is filled with heroes who embodied this idea of kalos kai agathos. Men like Achilles and Heracles were celebrated not only for their physical prowess but also for their courage, loyalty, and leadership. These heroes were the embodiments of the Greek ideal: strong, athletic, and virtuous, with their beauty reflecting their inner qualities and actions. Greek sculptures were central to defining male beauty, portraying gods, athletes, and heroes as models of physical and moral excellence. Iconic works like Discobulus, by Myron, and Dorophorus, by Polykleitos, exemplify this ideal. Discobulus captures a discus thrower in dynamic motion, emphasizing athleticism, lean muscle, and discipline. Dorophorus showcases perfect balance and symmetry, combining strength with grace and representing the ideal warrior. These statues reflect the Greek belief that beauty was linked to virtue. A truly beautiful man mastered both body and mind. Beyond artistic admiration, these sculptures communicated societal values, showing that physical excellence and moral strength were inseparable in the ideal Greek man. In ancient Greece, art reflected ideals of beauty, virtue, and human perfection. Sculptures and pottery depicted the human form in idealized, naturalistic ways, emphasizing symmetry, balance, and grace. Greek artists, like Phidias, Polykleitos, and Praxiteles, used techniques such as contrapposto to create lifelike yet perfected figures. Pottery mirrored these ideals, showing gods, heroes, and athletes with perfect proportions, highlighting the Greek belief in the harmony of physical excellence and moral virtue. Some of the most iconic Greek sculptures, like Venus de Milo and Laocoon, embody beauty, strength, and divine ideals. The Venus de Milo, created around 150 to 125 BCE, depicts Aphrodite in an idealized, naturalistic form. Her perfectly proportioned body, graceful curves, and serene expression reflect the Greek belief that physical beauty was linked to divine qualities. Even without arms, the statue remains a timeless symbol of human and divine elegance. The Laocoon group, by Aegisander, Athenodoros, and Polydorus, depicts the Trojan priest Laocoon and his sons attacked by sea serpents. The sculpture combines muscular tension, dynamic movement, and expressive faces, embodying Greek ideals of strength, grace, and endurance. It highlights how Greek art portrayed human beauty and emotion, even amid divine punishment. In Greek art, beauty reflected both physical perfection and moral or divine qualities. Sculptures of gods, heroes, and humans portrayed ideal forms, showing that a beautiful body symbolized virtue, harmony, and divine order. Aphrodite embodied feminine grace, Apollo youthful strength, and all figures reflected inner goodness. Greek artists celebrated the human body as a vessel of divine beauty, connecting mortals with the gods. Art mirrored the Greek pursuit of balance and excellence, showing that beauty, strength, and wisdom could coexist in perfect harmony. In ancient Greece, beauty was tied to health, hygiene, and social status. Bathing in public bathhouses was common, with olive oil used for cleansing, moisturizing, and exfoliating. Women, especially of higher status, styled their hair with combs, ribbons, and oils, using elaborate hairstyles to reflect social standing. Fragrances from natural ingredients like rose, myrrh, and lavender were used for scent, medicinal purposes, and spiritual connection. Beauty rituals were often linked to religion, with offerings to Aphrodite seeking her favor before weddings or festivals. For Greeks, beauty was more than appearance. It was a physical, spiritual, and social practice reflecting health, virtue, and the divine. In ancient Greece, beauty standards differed for men and women, reflecting societal roles. Women's beauty emphasized youth, grace, and fertility, symbolizing domesticity and moral virtue. Men's beauty focused on strength, athleticism, and intellect, showcasing public prowess and civic duty. For both genders, physical appearance represented deeper virtues. Women embodied health and domestic honor, while men exemplified courage, wisdom, and contribution to society. Ancient Greek beauty standards have profoundly influenced modern Western ideals. During the Renaissance, artists like Michelangelo and Da Vinci drew on Greek sculptures and proportions, emphasizing balance, symmetry, and idealized human forms, as seen in the Vitruvian Man and classical architecture. Today, these ideals persist in media and fashion, with an emphasis on symmetry, youthfulness, fitness, and toned bodies. Greek concepts of beauty as a reflection of inner harmony and virtue continue to shape contemporary standards, linking physical appearance with moral and intellectual excellence. The legacy of Greek aesthetics remains central to modern Western culture, from art and architecture to portrayals of beauty in media. In conclusion, the beauty standards of ancient Greece have had a profound and lasting impact on how we perceive beauty today. From the classical ideals of symmetry, proportion, and harmony to their influence on art, fashion, and modern media, Greek beauty has shaped contemporary beauty ideals in more ways than we often realize. How do you think these ancient standards still shape how we perceive beauty today? Are we still influenced by the same ideals of balance, health, and proportion? If you enjoyed learning about the rich history of beauty, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to dive deeper into any other aspects of ancient cultures.